shepherd. Nick, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks, Peter.
Good. All right, Nick, give me a little background. I obviously you're a bee guy. Have you always been a bee guy?
I've not always been a bee guy, but I had a distant family member who had bees when I was a kid, uh, and I didn't realize it until I started beekeeping. But it kind of put all the pieces together because as a kid, we were always eating honey on bread all the time. That was our go-to for dessert. So uh, it's just recently become a bee guy over the last, say, 15 years.
And what were you doing before you were a bee guy?
Before that, if you go way back, I spent 5 years in the Marine Corps. Traveled kind of all around the world, and then spent several years doing finance. Working for different financial institutions.
And what drove you to join the Marines?
Yeah, well, I grew up in a small town in Northwest Ohio, and I just wanted to get out of there as quick as possible. And I went to, I thought, well, I'll go into the military and get some experience and travel. And the Marines just kind of connected with me. That was my calling. And I went in the infantry and was a machine gunner for about 2.5 years, and then I ended up going into doing diplomatic security, working in embassies overseas for another three odd years.
And then you became a financial analyst. Is that right?
Yeah, yeah.
Or you still identify as a financial analyst?
Well, I really identify as as the bee shepherd now, but uh, I guess on the professional side of things, yeah, I'm a financial analyst. Uh,
Yeah, it's pretty fascinating to me the direct correlation between math and bees. Have you noticed that?
there's a lot of
I mean, it's,
a lot of geometry. Yeah, there's a lot of geometry in with
yeah,
bees.
obviously you got the honeycomb, which speaks for itself. But then you got like all these things. I guess I'll take a step back. I don't. I think I told you. I'm now. I have my own hive, my own colony of bees. I'm not as sophisticated as you. I'm like a flow hive guy. Which, if you're watching this, you don't know what the flow hive guy, the flow hive guy means. Excuse me. It means I've got a hive and I've got bees. I'm getting about over 150, 200 pounds a year of honey out of my hive. But it's like
That's awesome.
really not much maintenance or work relative to the traditional beekeeper's process. I mean, really, I put a crank in, I got a spigot, the honey comes out, I put it back, I check my bees, make sure everyone's cool, and then I go inside, you know? Um, which, for my, again, and I'm still the amateur here, I've been doing this about a year and a half, not 15 years. And I've never actually spun my honey, get the wax out, or even still, I don't even need to get suited up. I can go out there barefoot, half naked, and I'll get my honey. But you're more of a traditionalist here, right?
Yeah, I suit up. We spin the honeycomb to get, well, the honey out of the comb. Uh, those flow hives are great from what I've seen. I've never worked with them, but the people I've talked to and talking to you about it, they're awesome, and I'd love to give it a try. But they're a little pricey for kind of a sideliner beekeeper like me who might have 100 colonies. It's a big investment to do that for that many hives. But I love it.
But from a math perspective, you know, the idea of a swarm, the bee swarm, and mathematically what that means, and everyone's heard of, oh, they're swarming, and you're a kid, oh, the bees are swarming. I never understood the definition of swarm, and it's from my understanding. Correct me if I'm wrong here, but like basically the hive is too small. The queen says, I'm going to take the healthiest half of the hive with me, and goes out and starts a new colony, builds a new home somewhere else with half the hive, leaving the other half to fend for themselves and hope to God that they can, uh, raise a queen who's strong enough to take care of them, to hold down the fort.
You
Is that
you're
all
pretty close.
accurate?
Yeah, you're pretty close. There's lots of reasons that bees will swarm. Uh, if the queen is damaged or injured or just too old, the colony will say, "Hey, we need to raise a new queen to replace the old one." Or they get overcrowded, um, and they just say, "Okay, we need to go and find a new home." And so it's just a natural process of that bees go through to increase their numbers. 100, I read these stories. I've got some really old beekeeping books. 100 years ago, uh, beekeepers used to go down to the creek and collect bees and bring them back. And the way they would harvest honey is they would just kill off all the bees and then harvest the honey, and then they'd go back down by the river and collect more bees, and it was never a problem. Like today, bees are, if you're buying bees, they're expensive. $150 for a 3 pound package. I've seen them $200 for little mini hives, and so they're very valuable. So during swarm season, if you ever see a swarm, that's like $150 hanging off of a tree there. And so for me, this is coming into swarm season. I get very excited because I know there's going to be this natural spinning off of colonies, and they're usually well fed. They're docile. They have nothing to protect. So swarm is really kind of, to me, is like a negative term. You hear swarm, you think, oh, they're going to come after me. But a swarm is really very gentle, very docile. I've stuck my hand into the hives, the swarms that are hanging off a tree, and you don't get stung. And I don't recommend it. Anybody just go and stick their hand in a bunch of bees, but uh, they're just looking for a new home. They're not angry.
That's great. I love how you talk about bees. It's like brings a whole new dynamic and dimension that really is ignored by the general public. You know, you see honey, and honey's honey.
Mm.
It's commoditized now.
Yeah.
You don't actually. I mean, one of the things that's really drawn me to now the whole idea of being a beekeeper is like I have a relationship with these guys.
Yes.
And I've
Yes.
like I literally have I like root for my queen.
Mm.
Are they going to survive the winter? And like going out and seeing it, and like and all the things that you didn't know, like no one ever taught me that honey is how is they collect the honey. They eat it during the winter. Duh. They're not hybrid. They're not sleeping. There's no pollen. There's no flat. They got to eat the honey they
Yeah.
collect.
Yeah.
That makes perfect sense. But like, you go up to like a sixth grader today, and you say, "Hey, what do bees do in the winter?" No one's going to know that, and unless you know these like little like, which in common it makes
Yeah.
common sense when you think about it, but it's never explained or laid out. And I always find that so fascinating. So I'm really
I,
interested. But you have over 100
I,
hives.
yeah. Yeah. I have 100 hives that's about as much as I can handle on my own.
I'm
But
sure.
I had a similar experience, kind of what you were talking about. This connection with your bees. It took me about 4 years, and all of a sudden, I kind of went, oh, I feel what's going on in nature through my bees now and through their behavior. And as in the early spring, the bees are coming out of their hive and they're doing these like loop de loops and spinning around, and they're kind of confused. They don't know where to go. It's warm, but the flowers aren't on the trees yet, or the dandelions haven't popped up. And then as soon as the dandelions come up, these bees, the term beeline, they're like jets, choo choo, shooting in and out of the colony so fast. You've probably seen it. They got a mission. They're going so fast, and I can tell like what's going on in the environment. Even the bees know when it's going to rain. They know when the storms are coming. I've been out in the garden, taking care of my tomatoes and lettuce, and I kind of look over at the beehive, and there's a huge traffic jam in front of the colony entrance, and they're all jostling, trying to get in. And then I'm like, what's going on? And I look over my shoulder, and there's a huge thundercloud coming overhead, and so they're all racing to get back in before the storm comes in. So they know they're really connected, and then I feel more connected through my bees.
Hmm. Yeah, that's a great way of putting it. I loved how Jerry Seinfeld made the Bee movie
Mm,
because it kind of like showcased, it kind of brought the personality to these bees.
yep.
Now you just think every bee's a bee. That's not true. They have different roles and responsibilities, and even in some cases personalities. Can I say that without coming off crazy?
Yeah, I
But
think
I think you know what I'm
it's not
talking about.
crazy to me. I mean, I see it. I would go out. I used to put a chair beside one of my beehives, and I'd sit and I'd call my mom, and I'm talking to mom on the phone, and I'm watching the bees fly in and out, and you'd see these different jobs. You'd see the guard bees sitting on the edge of the hive, just sort of checking in with all the other field bees that are flying in. And then occasionally you'd look over and you'd see a little bee dragging another bee out, and a dead bee, and dropping it over the side. They have mortician bees. They're bringing out the dead and cleaning the hive out. So there's so many different jobs. It is really fascinating if people can get over their fear of buzzy things, then it's really a fascinating world.
Okay, give me the horror incident. You ever had like a moment where they just lit you up and you got stung like crazy, or anything where
Oh,
you made a mistake or you did the? Okay, I
I got
love
a
those
I
stories.
got a couple. Yeah, I've done a couple really dumb things before. Um, a lady in my neighborhood called me once, and she said she had bees living in this squirrel box. It's like
Okay,
a squirrel box is like a bird box, a birdhouse
yeah,
type thing, but for squirrels. And so I thought, oh, this is going to be easy. I'll go in, I'll put a piece of screen over the front of the this squirrel box. I'll take the box down, and then I'll carry it off. And it was that
yeah.
easy. I put a piece of screen over, I tacked it, carried it away, took it back to where I was gonna rehouse it, put it in a new colony. And I thought this is gonna be easy. I'll dump them out of the little hole in the front into this new colony, and they'll be
Oh
fine
no.
and they'll love it. So I go to dump this thing out, but I didn't realize that half of this it was bees. The other half was full of like sawdust and wood chips
Oh
and
no.
squirrel droppings or whatever. And so I'm like, quickly dump it in, and all this stuff comes out into the hive. So now I have a mound of bees and sawdust, and it's a huge mess. I didn't have my suit on, I didn't have gloves on, anything. And my kids and my wife are waiting for me. They're watching me in the car do this.
Oh
And then
no.
I'm looking over at them, and I'm looking in the hive. So I just roll my sleeve up, and then I just go in and I just scoop up all these, the sawdust and the bees, and I'm kind of trying to clean the hive out because the bees don't want that stuff in there. That one,
Yeah, of course
that
not.
one, that was one of them. But I remember I was harvesting honey once, and if you haven't done this, so when you harvest honey, you got to get all the bees out of the honey supers, which is the sections that we put on top of the colonies to get the surplus honey. And I was carrying it over to where we kind of have a little blower, and we kind of like a leaf blower, and blow the bees out. And as I was walking, I dropped this thing. It's full of bees. It probably has 30,000 bees in it. And up to
Oh
this
my
point,
god.
all the bees are super calm. It's just a really calm day. Nobody's getting squished, nobody's getting stung. And then I drop this thing, and it goes off like a hand grenade. It's boom. And then it alerts all the other bees too, because they have this alert pheromone that they release. So now I have hundreds of thousands of bees going around. They're trying to get in my suit. Then one gets in my veil, and it starts going up my nose. And I think, I don't want to get stung in the nose by a bee, like on the inside of my nose. It's going in my nose. Um, but then I think, okay, my choices are: do I take my veil off and expose my head to all these other hundreds of thousands of bees that are flying around,
Oh no.
or do I just leave it and hopefully I don't get stung on the inside of the nose? And so I was like, screw it. I just took this thing off. I reached in to get this bee out. And luckily, I didn't get stung on the inside of the nose, but it was one of those moments where I'm like, what an idiot, dropping all these bees.
So I had something similar. I got real cocky, you know, because after like I haven't been stung yet. They're making good honey. They like me. You know, I don't know what kind of delusional mens rea I'm in my head here thinking about, but um, I put on the suit. I go out. I'm going to inspect the hive. You know, go to check the frames, make sure everyone's kosher. You know, like the annual checkup. Last year, I put on the suit, do the whole thing, take it apart. They're everywhere. They're like going cray cray,
Yeah.
and I'm all right because I'm in my suit. You know, no one's going to touch me. I'm in my suit. And Nick, I first off, they got to have some more intelligence than we give them credit for. Okay, because there was in the back when you zip your head, there's a zipper, and there it must have been
Mm.
like that big of a space in the back where I did it myself, and I didn't zip it all. It came to the point where the back zipper zips up and it connects to the headpiece. And it was like, must have been like that big of an opening. And that's because that's the only, next time I'm in there and I see this, I hear this, zzz, and I'm looking at the mesh and I see the bee on the inside of the mesh. And I look and I'm like, and my first reaction was I just froze
No, you can't.
because you can't get in there. You're in the thing. And they're everywhere. I'm like, I'm not taking this off. And then I looked at them and you sweat in that, and the sweat's coming down my face, and I see, and I like stand up, and I'm like, oh no, and then I see him, and then and he lands right here, and I feel him walking on me, and I'm not moving, I'm dead still, but he comes right, and he goes right
Oh,
here, and he stings me in the
oh my
eyeball.
God.
Nick, in the eyeball. Look at this guy. Nick, Nick, I looked like Chunk from the Goonies for like 3 weeks. I just anyway. Hey Joe, let's get him on. Let's get his segment on
Uh,
Product Search Live so we can talk about his bee shepherd honey here, which is by far some of my favorite tasting honey I've ever had. Um, let me ask you something, Nick. The honey here. Do you add anything this, or is this just you spin it and you just put it in the glass? Is that it?
that one is, we add a little bit of an extract to that one. You're looking at the elderberry, the honey. So we use an organic extract of black elderberry that goes into that.
Okay. But other than that, there's like no other additives. I mean, a lot of the honey in the market right now is like dilute, diluted or like mixed with like corn syrup and stuff. I've been reading. Is that
Yeah,
true?
there is a huge conspiracy out there around honey, the adulteration of honey, along with, olive oil and things like that. But yeah, honey, there's a huge battle between, people that are trying to, just rip people off, and the people like us that are trying to make, good quality, products that come straight from the hive.
Here you are on the Product Search Live show a couple weeks ago, showing off your wares. How was this? You have a good time?
That was a lot of fun. It was, I was honestly blown away by how professional everybody was. Your team was just great. Uh, it was sort of like I didn't have to do anything. Just kind of like, okay,
That's nice. And
go
Albany's
over
awesome.
here, and get
Get to meet
ready.
her. She's
Um,
you know she
it
she's
was
one
it
of the
was a
top
great
selling
experience.
salespeople in the history of QVC. You know that?
She is
Yeah. So when
awesome.
it makes sense though. Yeah.
I didn't know that, but I could see it. I mean, oh, she's the brains, the voice, the beauty, all of it together. Uh,
Yeah, she's
she knew
pretty
the product
awesome,
better
and
than
it's
I
been a
did.
pleasure to work with
It
her.
was
We're filming our next show on May
she'd
3rd,
done
by
her
the way,
homework.
which you're invited. You want to come to the live taping? It's going to be outside of Philly again. We'd love to have you. And here you are showing off your hive. Now these are photos from your farm, and this is the smoker you use. You use like an old traditional smoker.
Yep, these are all photos from our farm. We typically, yep, yep. There's just a row of our hives, and um, in the background there, you can see there's a big bunch of rows of raspberries that are growing there.
And then
So
do you actually
really, you could
harvest
say
the
a lot of our
raspberries
honey
too?
is raspberry honey. Oh yeah, we do.
Yep,
There's
yep.
bees
We
coming
harvest
in
those.
in the fall. They're great. You end up eating more than you pick.
That's amazing. Okay, so when are we coming to visit? Team tour.
But come on out. You're welcome.
All right, and where did the name come from your farm? Francosia Farms, right?
Yeah,
Frangiosa.
Frangiosa.
Excuse me.
Yeah,
Where,
it's an
where's
old
that coming from?
it's an old family name. My great grandfather was Nicola Frangiosa, and coming from Italy. And when he came over here, he couldn't get a job in the early 1900s, being an Italian immigrant, and so he ended up like chopping his name up, and it became French somehow from Frangiosa. And I guess he got a job the next day, and so it's sort of a little homage to the family. There's a lot of Italian bees out there, different species and genetics of bees that are Italian. So it felt right.
And then I got to ask about your mustache. Has this been like an always do or die, mustache,
No,
or
no.
was this like
Well,
a
bees, a
no
lot of
shave November gone too
beeswax.
far?
It was, yeah, it sort of evolved that way. Yeah. And then, I really like it. It feels right.
Yeah, I can't imagine you without it. It's pretty awesome.
No, the family that they're ready to they're ready to like, when is this thing going to go away? And I'm like, I don't know. Well, I got a few more shows to do before I get rid of it.
Yeah, no, that takes some work and a commitment there. All right, and as for like the honey itself, also, do you have any idea how many pounds of honey a year you harvest?
Oh, it's tons. Yeah, it's tons. Um, Usually it'll take us, on a good year, it'll take us 3 solid days of just spinning the honey out. So,
And
imagine
then for
another.
those who don't know, when you spin honey, like what does that mean and entail? Like walk me through the process.
Yeah, yeah. So within one section of a hive, one layer, there's about 10 frames is how we use it. And so each one of those frames has two sides of honeycomb on it. And we take those frames out and we scrape the tops of those honeycombs because the bees put a little cap on it. When the honey's ripe, they put a lid on it, on the cell. And so then we scrape that off. We put this in a big centrifuge that might hold 24, 36 frames. We turn it on, it spins, at about 60 to 80, RPMs, and the honey flies out of the comb, hits the sides of the walls, goes down. We pass it through a little mesh, strainer just to get any bits of wax or bee or field debris. It goes into a bucket. From there, we take it and we bottle it. So it's really pretty simple. And so through that process, people are getting trace amounts of pollen, trace amounts of propolis, which is bee glue, but it's a powerful, immune stimulator and an antibacterial component that the bees make. And so it's truly, like, nectar of the gods. It's beautiful stuff.
That's so nice. Is there anything? Well, and here's a question for you: what is royal honey?
Oh, like royal jelly?
Royal
Is that what you're thinking
jelly,
of? Yeah, royal jelly is
because you see
it's
that a lot
another
these days.
It's a secretion from the bees. It's what the bees feed all of the little larvae, all the little eggs for the first few days. It's a nutrient feed, basically. Then for the queen, if they designate one cell to be a queen cell, they feed it royal jelly the entire time. And then that
So it's a
helps
powerful
this larva,
nutrient that the bees use
transform
to
into a
build the
queen bee.
hive.
It's sort of a foundational product, but for us, people are using it for beauty, health and beauty, mascara, or not mascara. I don't really know makeup stuff, but uh, they'll put it in creams, and then we consume it for its healing qualities. Um, our bees don't produce a lot of it. It's really a difficult thing. You've got to kind of suck it out of each little hive with like a pipette, each little cell. So it takes a lot to harvest royal
And
jelly.
that's probably why it's so expensive.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, wow, it's fascinating. Yeah, see, like again, these end consumers, they go to the supermarket, they buy it, they eat it, no appreciation, no understanding for where it's coming from, or the entrepreneur behind the story that brings it to market. This is kind of the whole reason we're doing this whole Better for You Media thing.
Yeah.
Is I like getting into the nitty gritty because we're so detached and so spoiled relative to like even 40 years ago.
Yeah.
This was like the market now is so sophisticated, but it also lacks a lot of education and appreciation from the end consumer. So I think being able to get you and have you showcase the story and make it so visceral. I mean, everything on this packaging to me is so fascinating. You picked the bottle, you picked the lid, you designed the label, you come up with the name, you came up with the ingredients, you took care of the bees, you went through all the knowledge and understanding to actually get this product to market. And even just getting a UPC label, like a code here, is not something that the end consumer can appreciate the amount of work and diligence that goes into the process. So
Thank
certainly,
you.
I
Yeah,
think
it's
it's
tough.
a testament to kind of your work. Plus, having 100 bees. Have you had any issues with like colony collapse disorder?
This this past year, I mean, we're coming out of a really tough year right now. And as a beekeeper, as you know, we take these things very personal. And even telling the story, I'm a little embarrassed, but we've had a lot of losses of our colonies. Uh, I think primarily it's due to lack of forage this year. I planted a lot of sweet yellow clover. We had a lot of wildflowers we've been planting on our farm for the last 5 years, and we had this plague of grasshoppers come through and just destroyed everything. They ate all the flowers down to just stalks uh, on everything, and then they started moving to the trees, and they were eating all the leaves on the trees. And so it was just a really bad year for bees to forage, at least in my area here. So honey production was down. Uh, Bees were coming out of the winter right now, so we're just starting to get some checks on the colonies, but the losses are pretty high right now. Unfortunately, there's tricks. We talk about swarms. We're coming into the swarm season. It's also the best time of year to split colonies. So if you have one colony that's strong, you can turn them into 2 or 4 or 6, depending on how well that they're doing. So there are tricks that we have, beekeepers have, that we can increase our numbers really pretty quickly.
Do we want to know about these tricks, or these like trade secrets?
Oh, there's not really any trade secrets. No, it's all out there, but you have to have a keen eye. You have to have a trained eye to know what you're looking for. You have to be able to identify an egg that's between 1 and 3 days old. If you can identify an egg and you're talking about a speck that's smaller than a grain of rice. If you can identify that, then you can put that in another hive and encourage the bees to raise that as a queen. And so you can continue to do this in a cycle where you put a frame in, let the queen lay an egg. Within 1 to 3 days, you take it out, you put it in another colony, that has bees that can raise it, that they don't have a queen, but they're willing to raise one. And so you kind of continue to do this cycle of take the eggs out, put it in a new colony, raise a queen, take the eggs out, raise a new queen. So you can do this pretty quickly over, 15 days.
It's really interesting to me, the concept of like a drone hive, the idea of a hive that doesn't have a queen and just like kind of slowly like peters out there, and it becomes like
I've had it
dead.
Yeah. So I've had it before. You can also get laying workers, where a worker bee will lay, but she only lays drones, like you're talking about. And so eventually, as the workers die off, you get drones that don't do anything. They're just kind of looking for a mate. They're not working, they're not foraging, and it does. The hive just kind of dies off slowly, slow death.
There's got to be some correlation between your time in the service and your tenacity and consideration for being a beekeeper. I think there's a lot of processes and routines that you learn with the proper discipline through your marine schooling, and that you kind of transfer that to your day-to-day professional career now. Is that a fair assumption?
Yeah, when I was going through boot camp in the Marine Corps, the drill instructors will tell you that once you graduate boot camp, you're going to be a Marine, and this is going to follow you every day for the rest of your life. And you think, it's a load of crap. It's not, but it's true. It does. It follows you every day of your life. And then as you come across challenges, you think, okay, I've done worse. I've gone through tougher times than this. This is only temporary. Tough times don't last. Only tough people do. And so you just go, okay, I'm going to get up and do it again. I'm going to make it better. I'm going to push through. And yeah, you need that as a small business owner. You need that sometimes. You need to just get up and get it done.
Is there any place that you served or you visited that was your favorite place to be stationed?
Gosh, I've been to a lot of places. I mean, I really loved Central America. I was in Guatemala City. It sounds kind of funny when I tell you this, but it was a great post, but it was during a civil war. that was going on there. And there were bombs going off. There, everybody had guns. There were kidnappings, but when you're like 19 and 20 and you have diplomatic immunity and you're just you know you're hanging out with a lot of really cool people in the government and so on one hand it was a little sketchy at times. It's a whole other world. But on the other hand, it was a great time. It was a beautiful country. The people were just so happy, even after all the troubles they've been through. Just happy. They're always smiling wherever you went in the country. Just really, and a beautiful country too, volcanoes and coffee, and it was just loved it.
It's really nice. All right. And as for where are you going with the honey? Like, is this the beginning of your story? Are you like pretty happy with the status of the business? Is the goal to keep growing?
Yeah, we were still launching the Bee Shepherd, brand. We're still kind of in the rollout. We're really within the first year of it, but it's really getting the message out to people about, raising awareness about these healing qualities. We're rediscovering the power of mushrooms and botanicals and getting it out in front of people and letting them try it. And we're getting people they're coming back to us after trying the lion's mane, and they're like, you know what? I don't know if it's the honey or the mushrooms or what it is, but I'm feeling sharper in the mornings, mentally sharper in the mornings. And I'm like, that's great. That's what I want to hear. That's going to get me up again to do it again the next day. But there's such a variety of products that we're doing within the mushrooms. The reishi is a good immune stimulant, just to kind of fortify the body. And so everything we're doing is sort of these botanicals and mushrooms that have been out there for a long time, but we're just bringing it back to people now so that they can incorporate it into their products. And also they are helping bees. With every jar that's being purchased, we're putting back into creating and maintaining healthy bee colonies here in Colorado.
Oh, well, keep up the great work there. Is there okay? So your website. What's your website where people can come and watch these inspired bees?
Frangiosafarms.com is the site.
All right, we'll put that right in here. And I love your phone 1833 BEE.com, right? That's awesome. I mean, how many variations you got to go through to get that number?
Takes a little time. Yeah.
Pretty good. Yeah. All right. Well, Nick, I really appreciate your time and your support for the bees, and just you as an entrepreneur is incredibly exciting and fun to follow. Your product speaks for itself, and it was a real pleasure having you on Product Search Live. I hope this is just the beginning of your story, and I look forward to staying close with you and coming out and trying some of your raspberries in person, because that sounds delicious.
Come on out anytime. Love to have you. Thanks for having me.